Hi, this is Becky, and you're watching Unbiased Football TV, the premier sports channel covering everything football. Please subscribe to our channel, like, comment, share, and click that notification bell. You don't want to be the last one to get notified, right? Go do it!
Welcome, everyone, to Unbiased Talk, Game Week 3, Episode 2. I am your host, Bella. The lady up top there is Becky, and the young man to the left is Lanky. We had an interesting game week, a lot of controversial wins and disappointments. We're going to start off with Burnley versus Southampton. Southampton won the game 1-0 with Ings scoring the only goal. Oh, wait. I think I made a mistake there. Before we go there, we're going to discuss the two games from last week. Becky's going to give us a quick rundown of those two games. Becky, go ahead.
Sheffield versus Villa. Since this season started, I'm kind of disappointed with Sheffield United. I think they started where they left off after game restart last season. You know, they don't have that fire anymore. You know, they failed to score in their last two games against Villa, and they haven't scored in a game. They came out of that game like looking flat and everything. In the second half, they went down. In the first half, they went on a 10-man that didn't even make it worse for them. In the second half, they put a little more fight, but it wasn't good enough. And kudos to Villa. They get that goal and win the game. City versus Wolves. City's like what City always be. They control the game. They take all the position. Nothing really. City did what they expected was supposed to be done. They got there and win that game. Nothing really per se happened that we can say, hey, we didn't expect it to happen. So that's pretty much it for those two games. Like, yeah.
Okay, so Southampton versus Burnley. Southampton were only able to register one goal in the game. My question is then, are we supposed to be expecting better from Southampton, Lenky?
I would say yes. I mean, Southampton is not a team. You have the traditional top six, and then you have the mid-table teams, and then below you have the teams that most times it's the newly promoted teams that you expect those teams to go back down sometimes. So, I mean, the greatest thing is that they got the win. It wasn't an exciting game per se. Because, Burnley, their style of football is like the direct, long ball kind of stuff. So Burnley isn't a ball-playing team per se. So, I mean, 1-0, I mean, it just sums up the game, really. I wasn't expecting. Like, when you think of a Southampton thing, I'm not going out expecting a lot of goals. It's not one of those teams that you can say, well, yeah, this team is a free-flowing, free-scoring team that you expect to see a lot of goals. Sometimes they do, but I wouldn't say it was expected.
Becky, Burnley not being able to capitalize playing at home. Where do they go from here with Sean Dyche?
I think Burnley still haven't recovered from that time when they didn't make it in Europe, and after that time, they just haven't been performing up to standard. That when they made it, they didn't make it to the next round in the Europa League. They didn't qualify for Europe when they played that qualifier, and after that game, they just still haven't recovered. And I don't know. Sean Dyche is a really tactical coach, and he know what to do. And I just think they just got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what they need to do. As like you said, the game wasn't all that exciting. Like, you're not gonna expect a lot to go from them. Mostly will get like a 2-1 win or 2-1, 2-2 draw, but 1-0 is sum up all the game was. It's not much we can say about that game.
Okay. Sheffield versus Leeds. Sheffield have yet to register a win this season. They have yet to score a goal this season. They are the only goalless team so far in the Premier League. Can Chris Wilder get the job done keeping them up this season? And did the loss of Dean Henderson, is it that which is affecting the team why they're not performing? Lanky.
All right, so I mean the season is still early, just 3 games in. Typically, you wouldn't want to be in that position where you haven't scored a goal. I mean, but I mean he did it last season, so I'm backing him to do it again. I mean, probably it is just a bad patch. Regarding Henderson, I mean, I know sometimes like players have an impact on the team psychologically, so I wouldn't blame it too much on the fact that Henderson is no longer there. And the reason why I say that is because I haven't seen like goalkeeper blunders be the reason why Sheffield have conceded. You understand? But on the psychological factor, maybe they were more comfortable with him. So maybe that has a part to play, but I wouldn't pin it definitively on just the fact that Henderson is no longer there. I just think what we expect based on the performance from last season, I mean, we haven't seen that as yet. You understand? Lundstrom, last season he was excellent. We haven't really seen him this season that much, giving us those performances like he did last season. And we have to make mention of the fact that he missed that penalty in the game. I mean, had he scored it, maybe, I mean, the game would have turned out differently. So let's see how the season goes. But I wouldn't write Sheffield off as yet.
Okay, Becky, what's your overall thought on the game, and what does Sheffield need going forward for them to stay up?
My overall thought of the game is we gotta give a lot of kudos to both keepers. Both keepers keep the team in the game. Like, it was one of those games where it's end to end. It was really excited to watch, and I enjoyed that game. Like, it was really excited to watch. Overall, in a sense, Leeds, the team was almost totally equal match, but the winner deserved it. Leeds wanted it more. They create more chances. On and off the ball, they were great. So I think the result was great in Leeds' favor. But at the end of the day, we would like to see a draw in a sense where both teams perform well. And to me, the man of the match for that game was both keepers. Either from the goal that Sheffield conceded, but both keeper. For Sheffield United to come back, I think they need to go back to the drawing board and remember what they started off last season and try to regain that fire back, because I haven't seen them. Lundstrom was a great player. You can depend on him, always score. He missed a penalty last week against Villa and all that stuff. So he's a person that you normally depend on, and you need a goal from him, you will get a goal as a defended midfielder. So you normally is a reliable player. So yeah.
Okay.
Just to add a quick thing though, Alicia, like what I've seen from Leeds, they have been consistent in their performance throughout the 3 games that they have played so far.
Right.
So what Leeds, for the last week we spoke about their defensive issue. Do we see an improvement in their defense?
Well, just from the scoreline, we would say yes. I mean, they didn't concede.
Okay, well, let me put it this way then. Was it an improvement in Leeds' defense, or was it a breakdown of Sheffield's attack?
Well, I would say a combination of both. I mean, we're not going to take away from the fact that, the defense, they did their job. You understand? But like we said earlier, myself and Becky, like the free-flowing, attacking, potent football that we saw last season from Sheffield, it wasn't there. It's not been there from in any of the 3 games so far. But I mean, when I look at Leeds and the way they played in the first game, the way they played in the second game, and the way they played in the third game, I mean, consistently you see they're positive going forward. I mean, they retain the ball well sometimes, and the back line, I mean, it's a work in progress. As you know, stepping up from the Championship to the Premier League, maybe against a different team, maybe with a more stronger attack, maybe they would have been tested a bit more. But let's see. As I said, they didn't concede, and for any defense, I mean, a clean sheet is there's nothing better than a clean sheet.
When Leeds have the ball going forward, they tend to have an eye line too. So I think that's why other team used to catch them off guard, because they're so high and everybody just go forward as a unit. But when they're coming back, they don't come back as a unit, as one, and they just put the ball over the top, and that's why I catch them sometime too. But as I said, the keepers keep them in the game, so they still need to work on their defense, because the keeper makes some really great saves today.
Okay. All right, then we're gonna go to Spurs versus Newcastle. Spurs had a very exciting match last week, and then this week it seems like we see this time and time again with Spurs. This week they have a good game, and then the next week they fall back into the same thing. And we saw Newcastle getting a late penalty in the game that seemed to be the thing this season with handball. Becky, what are your thoughts on Spurs and Jose Mourinho?
So I think what happened was, when Spurs scored the goal, Lucas haven't scored a goal in 9 months in the Premier League. That's his first goal in 9 months, right? And once they score, it's like they pretty much get comfortable and got complacent, because they stop doing what they usually do and let Newcastle back into the game and build on that. Because in the first 10-20 minutes, the first 3 minutes, Spurs almost score, and the keeper has to make a double save and all that stuff. So I think after they score, they became complacent and let Newcastle hang on in the game. And then in the second half, when Newcastle will come out with a more positive attitude and start creating more chances. So I think that's what happened with Spurs consistently. And then they lose a playoff injury. Son came off a halftime injury, so we didn't have that fiery again on the wing with Son and Kane interchange, one go high, one go low. So they lose that steam too. So I think, as usual with Spurs, and then we have an incident that Dele Alli is leaving. Again, he still haven't get picked in the team again. So I don't know. Spurs.
Matic, in this game we saw Tottenham basically having most of the possession and having 12 shots on target, compared to Newcastle having only 1 shot on target. How is it a combination of the players up front not having that cohesiveness with each other? Is it that's the cause of them breaking down so many times, not being able to capitalize on what they're doing?
All right. Well, when you think about it, Alicia, 12 shots on target. I mean, that's a good for any team to have 12 shots on target. That means either you have a very potent attack, or the other team has a weak defense, and the only thing that's in the way is probably the goalkeeper. So they have attacking players. They have very good attacking players. You don't have to make much mention of Harry Kane. We all know how much of a good player he is. We have Son, as Becky rightly said, who has that fire. He can take it from midfield. He can dribble. He can run, pull players out of space, and open up space for other teammates. So they have a good attack, and I think they complement each other, and they fit well together. However, the goalkeeper most likely was probably just having a good day. I mean, for you to have 12 shots on target, that says a lot. But the thing is that, like with Tottenham, they're like a 50-50 team. So this week, they turn up banging. And then the next week, they're like a schoolboy team. But we all expected Tottenham to dominate possession in this game, which they did. You understand? As Becky said, no Dele Alli. We don't know what's really happening there, but you know, like once Jose Mourinho is not in favor of someone, we all know what happens with him. Another question is, remember, we have Gareth Bale, and he's yet to feature for Tottenham, so he's already he's already played in the Premier League. He knows what it's all about. So he already has that experience, and that can only add to the strength in Tottenham's attack. It's interesting to see how he will fit in and where, and who will suffer as a result of that. But I mean, let's just give it some time, and we'll see what's happening there.
Okay, for Newcastle coming away with a draw was a crucial point for them because they won their first match opening weekend and then they lost last week. I think we all know that Newcastle fans didn't have much confidence in Steve Bruce when he was initially brought in. Is he doing a good job? Becky?
Say that again?
Steve Bruce.
Okay.
Your thoughts.
We are Newcastle. Okay. Sorry. Wait, what?
Yellow card.
Oh, brother. Steve Bruce is a good coach. You know, he had a really good he have a good set of guys. I think it's not a team that's actually going to get relegated. I don't expect them to be relegated. They're just going to be in the bottom half of the table. So I think he's doing a good job. I think sometimes he should bring on Carroll more earlier, you know, and use that hair ball and put it in the box more, because they tend to like put it on the ground. Sometimes it don't work. So maybe start Carroll and see what happens. Maybe they will create some more chances and get goals.
What's the team lacking? Either one of you can take this question. What are they lacking?
Well, what I think, you know, in most of the top teams, you have this creative player who can unlock. You know, if the team is flat, you can turn to them for a moment of magic. They can create a pass. They can pull something out of the hat, really. And for Newcastle, I can't really think of anyone with those capabilities. So I think that's what they need. It's just like a very, you know, like for example, like for Man City, you know, you have De Bruyne, and he's the go-to man whenever you need something from Man City, right? So for Newcastle, I don't really see that player. I don't know who is that person. Almiron, he's more like of a winger. You know, I think they need someone in the midfield who can hold the ball, dominate possession, you know, keep the ball, attract fouls from other players. I mean, I don't really see them with that kind of player. So I think that's what they're lacking at the moment. You know, so hopefully they will have a few days before the transfer window closes. So let's see if the management.
A few weeks ago, they signed Ryan Fraser from Bournemouth. He played midweek in the Carabao Cup when they played against Morecambe, and when Newcastle registered 7 goals. Should Steve Bruce have considered playing him today? Either of you can take this. Becky.
Well, sometimes as a coach, you have to gamble sometimes. You know, sometimes stuff don't work out. You got to put it in there. And you have Carroll on the bench, and you can use him as a target man. And then King can be as that guy who hold the ball up, because he's really good at that, and facilitate to Carroll. So you can even put 2 up front. and use King as a false nine or something like that. Sometimes you have to gamble, and they play well together. So sometimes as a coach, you have to just put everything out there. Today against Spurs, so they be more defensive. So maybe when they play their next game, they try and gamble and see what happened and see that result.
Okay, fair enough. Next up, we are going to discuss Crystal Palace versus Everton. Everton seem to be having a really, really good start to their season. They came away with the win 2-1. And again, as we expected, Calvert-Lewin was on the score sheet. Lenky, what are your thoughts on this Everton, this new energized Everton team?
Well, we all know what Carlo Ancelotti has done as a coach. We have seen where he has proven himself. So I have no doubt that he can get his team to do whatever he wants them to do. 3 games, 3 wins. I mean, what more could a coach ask for? The team is playing really well. As I said last week, I wouldn't say right now that they will be in the top 6, but they will definitely be in and around that era. They'll be sniffing, and I can tell you, like, if any one of the top 6 teams should slip, I think Everton is a team that will be ready to pounce and take their spot. But overall, the team is looking good, well balanced going forward, defensively as well. James has been involved in almost everything Everton in the past couple of games. Calvert-Lewin, as you know from last season, he's brought his goal scoring form over into the new season. So they're looking exciting. They're looking well balanced. They're looking well organized as well. So hats off to Everton.
My only problem, I think, with Everton is, like, they always start a season they always start good and then they just go down, so they're burned out and stuff. So that's my only problem with Everton, is like the yearly thing. Are they going to be able to keep this up week in, week out? So that's what we should ask ourselves, because there's something that they do, starting scoring goals, winning game, and then they just go on a winless streak.
Crystal Palace, the Roy Hutchinson side. Crystal Palace they don't seem like a team that we should expect much from, but they have been up in the Premier League, where I think they should be performing better than they are performing. Last season, they slapped a hefty price tag on Zaha, and with that price tag, we expect more from him that we haven't really been seeing. It's like this week he's performing like an $80 million player, and then the other week he's like a player that, as Damien would say, he's like a France baller. He's lazy, exhibit a lot of laziness most times.
Right.
So what should we expect from Crystal Palace, Becky? What should we expect from them?
I think for me they need so they have Benteke on the bench, they have RU, and I think they need a point guy. Somebody who can actually score the goals. Saha will give you the guy who will beat all the defender and get into the box, but who is going to cross the ball to? Who's going to take that chance and get the head out and hit it in the box? Benteke has proven that he can't be depended on, because he gets start after chance after chance after chance. So who are they going to use? There's not that point person who can hold up the ball properly long enough to have that to facilitate the other players. So I think they need a point person.
Does Crystal Palace need a new manager? Do they need somebody to energize the squad? Roy Hutchinson is the oldest manager right now in the Premier League. Over the break, we had a short break, but I think most people are expecting to see Crystal Palace bring in a new manager because they've been up in the Premier League for long enough and they're not even qualifying in for European. We're not expecting Champions League qualification from them, but not even Europa. Do they need a new manager? Thank you.
Well, it's funny you should ask that because I was looking while watching the game. I was looking at Roy Hodgson and I was thinking the same thing. You know, I don't know what the retirement age is in England, but I was honestly saying, like, maybe he should retire now. Not saying that he's doing anything wrong, but I guess probably they just need some fresh ideas. You understand? Something different. Because as you rightly said, Alicia, last season they put a hefty price tag on Zaha, and I was very critical of that. Because I was saying, like, for a $75 million player who's just registering 10 goals and 8 assists for the season, like, that's too much money. You understand? And I wouldn't say Zaha is playing bad, but what I would say is that sometimes his decision making is poor. It's like the team depend on him, and nothing is wrong with that. But sometimes he wants to do it alone, so he ends up doing more than he needs to do. Because I can remember at one point in the game yesterday, he made a dribble, and there was another player in a better position for him to just lay the ball off, and that player to get a shot off, and he was unbalanced and he took the shot himself. Whereas if he had passed to the player could have probably got a better chance off. So I think Palace really wants Zaha to commit. You see, they gave him the captaincy. So sometimes he just needs to just relax. Don't want to do it all by himself. Make some better decisions. Spread it all around because, like, we all know the kind of player he is. Like, he brings a lot of attention to himself. You know, 3-4 players tackling him, or they're always fouling him. So, and as Becky said, like, if you have that kind of player, who is the person who's gonna score the goals? You need that person, that focal point that say, all right, Zaha's gonna beat this 2-3 players. That himself, if he's pulling 3-4 players to him, that means that there should be more Palace players that are free.
Right.
And so they need that. As I agree with Becky, they need that focal point where they say, all right, this is Zaha is the creator, and this guy is gonna be the one to finish it off. And maybe, as you rightly said as well, Alicia, maybe they just need a different manager, you know, to just bring some different ideas to get the best out of these players.
And I think Blanky, if he had that player to pass the ball to, his decision making will be better because he can depend on that player, because he will go in the box and he will just take the shot instead of lay it off to somebody and put a cross in. So there's that play, and I think because everybody depend on him, you're gonna put it on himself, and I'm like, I'm gonna do it myself.
That's a good point.
There's nobody else I can do it.
That's a very good point. Maybe he's not confident in his teammates. Like, right. So that's a very good point, Becky.
Or maybe he's just taking it all on himself. because he has something that he wants to prove.
Right.
Because he wants to leave. He has made it clear that he wants to leave. But right now we don't see any offers pouring in for him. We know Arsenal wanted him last season. They slapped an FD price tag on him, and now basically it's like he's trapped. Because if they had let him go last season, then he would be somewhere else playing. But no, nobody's coming in because he didn't register the amount of goals that a top club is going to come and say, yes, we're going to take him for this price. So,
Precisely.
Yeah. I guess that's that on that.